On today's show, we learn about the Plymbury Witch, pop up at the Town of Plymouth Christmas tree lighting, talk with end-of-life coach Aimee Yawnick, hear original poetry, and about upcoming things to do in our area. We are glad you're here. Let's get started. The Plymouth Town Hall Green was packed with festive folks dressed for cold weather and celebration at this year's Christmas in historic Plymouth. Our local Scene Street team was there.
We're here at the Plymouth Christmas tree lighting at Town Hall Green. It's going to be a wonderful night filled with pretty lights, community joy, and a whole lot of holiday cheer. Let's see what these folks have to say. I'm with Nick Fiala, who is the Parks and Forestry Superintendent. What a great night. I'm so excited for you to be here. You helped procure this tree. So what was that process like?
So this year was definitely different than all the other years. This has been happening since the 1970s, and this is the first year that we've had an artificial Christmas tree. So this year we were lucky enough to get some funds from the Visitor Service Board. They use local hotel dollars, taxes, to fund different items that might help tourism, but also residents can benefit from. So that's how we purchased this year. But so I know, some people might be upset about it. To be honest with you, it's a little tough for me to swallow too. But then when you see it, it's so beautiful. I think we'll be okay. And we didn't have to kill a tree this year. So
always a good thing. Why do you think events like this are important to the community?
I mean, if you look around and you just see all the children playing and running around and sipping hot chocolate, it's just a nice thing to bring the community together. It's a great thing the town of Plymouth can do.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am with Miss Catherine and Jordan the polar bear. You have a very exciting event coming up in March. Can you tell me about it?
We do. This will be our 23rd annual Polar Plunge to benefit the Cancer Center at BID Plymouth. Over $1.6 million raised, usually in $10, $20 increments. We welcome everyone to come. It's at Nelson's Beach, Saturday, March 1st.
Very exciting.
Yes, jordanhospitalclub.org to sign up, or registration forms.
Excellent. How long have you been doing this event? You've been doing it for a little while, right?
23 years. This will be our 23rd.
More than a little while.
Yes.
That's so great.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it really is. And it's such a real great community event. There's so many families that come out, or generations, like maybe parents or grandparents started, then their kids and their kids. So over 23 years, you really see a full span of families.
Love to see it. That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about this event, why it's important to have events like this in the community?
The tree lighting or the plunge? Tree lighting. Oh, the tree lighting, because it brings us all out on a beautiful night to enjoy this gorgeous town. We get to see people we haven't seen. We're going to hunker down and to share some goodwill in the season. It's a great way to kick it off.
I love it. Thank you so much for visiting with us today. I'm with Liliette and Sierra. I need to know, what is your favorite holiday candy? I'm gonna ask you to lift up.
Maybe, the Christmas cookies.
Now, what are you guys getting for Christmas this year?
I asked for a new face paint kit because my other crayons got all smushed and melted.
Oh.
Squishy!
Squishmallows! I love Squishmallows! Very good. Well, Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Thank you so much! My Michael, why are events like this important to the community?
Well, I think they're very important to try and get the families together, try and get the festus of Christmas holiday, things of that sort. It's really kind of gone to the wayside, and we're trying to bring that back. So things like this here, as you can see, it's getting quite crowded here, which is a great thing, you know, because in the past, sometimes you don't get as many people coming. So it's really, we're really happy about that.
Awesome. And can you tell me, like, what this means to Plymouth, you think? Like, why events like this are important to Plymouth in particular?
Well, it is, because I'm a history buff, and when you look at Plymouth as far as all the history and things of that sort, again, that is not talked about as much as it used to be back in the 70s and the 80s. So it's a great thing to kind of bring here. Look at the kids are running around, and it's just a really good time, you know, for Plymouth itself to kind of get back into things. This place used to be like New Hampshire back in the day, the way you park your cars and this and that, and a tight little community, and it got really big. So stuff like this is really good. It brings everybody together.
Awesome. Michael, such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, I am with Violet and George. Now, I gotta know, what is the best Christmas gift you've ever gotten?
My plunger bow and arrow.
You got a bow and arrow? You are fierce, sister. That's awesome.
Plunger.
Oh, it's a plunger one. Okay. What about you, George? Can you give him the microphone?
I think it's maybe like a board game. It's kind of like a board game, but it's called Pop the Pig.
Ooh,
Where you feed the pig burgers and whatever. It's where you feed the pig burgers and it's where you feed the pig burgers and whatever number is on the burgers, you like push his head down and then until he pops, and whoever makes him pop wins the game. It's really fun.
Oh, now I have to know, what is Santa gonna get you this year for Christmas? What are you asking for?
I'm asking for a Nintendo Switch and also a kids go-kart.
Ooh, whoa, that's a lot. I love it. I love your ambition.
I am asking for a cat where you build the house, it magically appears for $20. And then I'm also asking for like this swing thing that hangs from your roof. That's kind of like a cocoon that you can just sit in, and it feels like you're in a cute little cocoon just snuggling like a snuggle bug.
Like a snuggle bug? I love it. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Very nice. Great job. Well, what a magical night. We want to thank the town of Plymouth for having us here. Make sure to check out our socials to see where we're popping up next. From all of us at the local scene, we wish you a very happy holiday season. We'll see you next time.
The Timeless Tales Book Club meets the second Tuesday of every month to read and re-examine classic childhood favorites. On January 14th, the group's discussion will center on the historical childhood classic Little Women, written by beloved Bostonian Louisa May Alcott. This meeting will be facilitated by Shelley Sommer, who is well familiar with this timeless tome as a former school librarian and middle school literature teacher. Revisit the stories of Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy starting at 11 a.m. at the Duxbury Senior Center. All are welcome to attend. Be sure to march to the Senior Center's website to register or call 781-934-5774, extension 5703. The Kingston Public Library is a borrowing mecca. In addition to books, the library lends digital assets, videos, DVDs, and CDs, puzzles, games, and even things like a crepe maker, sewing machine, and bicycle pump. KPL is taking it one step further. On Tuesday, December 31st, you can borrow a librarian. From 2 to 4 p.m. in the adult reference area, appointments with librarians will be available to patrons for 30 minutes of one-on-one time geared toward instruction on a few of life's necessary but often perplexing tasks. Learn how to use Microsoft Office or get the basics on how to navigate a device. Do you have to write your resume or submit a job application? Librarians will be happy to help. Secure your slot today by contacting reference librarian Stephen Miller at 781-585-0517 or smiller@kingstonma.gov. Who is the Plymbury Witch? We went on the local scene to talk with local author Kendra Vaughn.
My name's Kendra Vaughn. I'm the author of The Plymbury Witch. So I've been writing since I was a child, and I think that most writers say that. But for me, my writing career really started when I started writing nonfiction. And then I just decided I really, really wanted to write fiction. So I went back to school and got my MFA in creative writing, and here I am. The Plymbury Witch is about a modern-day witch who has to make a choice between her family's magical legacy and a forbidden love with a Christian minister who can change it all. So I've always lived a magical life, and I lived a magical life in a conservative Christian community. So I had a lot of struggles. You know, it's hard when you live in a Christian community and you're different. So I had a ministry in that community also, where I obviously ministered to other people who live magical lives. And we encountered so many different things. It was the struggle in the community of who we were and trying to find our way, as well as the struggle of people pushing back against us. And I really felt there was a huge story in there, and I wanted to depict that story, even though the story is not about my life at all. So for me, I wanted to touch upon themes of, you know, what happens. I said to myself, what would happen in a Christian conservative community if a witch fell in love with a Christian minister? Like, how would that affect families? How would that affect the community? How would that affect, you know, all of the things that make this community run the way it runs? So I kind of wanted to look at that and think about that, like what could the ramifications of that be? But on top of that, there's all kinds of family dynamics. There's church dynamics. We have the Christian church and all the people in the church, how they're relating to that. We have the people in the community. We have, you know, my main character, Ravenna, we have her family and how they're all relating to that. On top of themes of lying, on top of themes of, you know, belonging, of self-acceptance, of perseverance. There's just so many themes in there. You could probably find 20 or 30 themes in there easily. My whole entire ministry in Duxbury was around religious tolerance. And one of the reasons why I wrote this book was because I wanted to take the stigma of witches, you know, green faces, warts and all that stuff, and Hollywood, and I wanted to really show you what a real witch looks like. Of course, there's fantastical elements in the book because it's fun, but in reality, she's a real witch. And I wanted desperately to just be able to show the life of a real witch. How does a real witch live? They're just like everybody else in the community, and they want to be accepted and loved just like everyone else. And I hope what people can take away from the book is just a little bit more of an open mind about people that aren't like them. It's been fabulous. I love my readers, so I had no idea what to expect. You know, when you put a piece of art out there, you just never know how people are going to relate to it, or if they are going to relate to it, if they're going to like it, hate it, whatever. And so far, all the response has been so positive. It really has. I have my own book club, and the people in the book club all said they wanted to read the book and they wanted to discuss it in our next meeting. And that in and of itself was just incredible. For the show of support that I got from the community was unbelievable. But then when everybody showed up with their book, in my book, I mean in their hand, I cannot even tell you what a surreal feeling that was. It was incredible. It literally brought tears to my eyes to think that these people read my book and they want to talk about it. And leading the book club was awesome in the respect that, you know, I got to hear the feedback. I got to hear what people thought about it. I'm hoping they didn't hold back. I didn't get the impression that they did. And just being able to hear what they thought about it and how they felt about it and what worked for them and, you know, what the story meant to them was just huge for me. Thank you Thank you, thank you, thank you to my readers. I can't even believe it's just been incredible to see the amount of people that have been supportive of this book. It's starting to expand wider and wider now to people I just definitely do not know. And they're still getting in touch with me, which I really want them to. I want to know what they think, how they feel about it, what would they like me to write next. And I'm just thoroughly enjoying every single exchange I have with every single reader, and I'm grateful for every single one of them.
Singer, songwriter, recording artist, and 2022 New England Music Awards nominee Sarah Martin will perform on January 16th in the cozy setting of the Spire Center's Lobby Series, an intimate 70-seat local and regional artist showcase lounge. A Plymouth-based artist, Sarah's 20-plus years of performance roots also run deep through the downtown honky-tonks of Nashville. Her live shows often welcome the audience's participation with on-the-spot requests, weaving the vibe into a tapestry of her own original country-based songs with fun covers of popular tunes in all genres, from indie to classic rock, pop, and 90s hits. Doors open at 6:30 and the show kicks off at 7:30. Visit the Spire Center website to get your tickets. The goal of Rock the Rink is to keep Duxbury youth hockey affordable and ensure its future in the town. Don't miss this fantastic fundraiser happening on January 10th at Soundcheck Studios in Pembroke. Country rock regional favorites Dalton and the Sheriffs, known for their authentic homegrown style and high energy performances, will headline the event. Complement the tunes with a shot or two from the cash bar and stick around for the raffle when you might net something spectacular. Prizes include free Duxbury youth hockey tuition, Bruins tickets, and a Sparks machine. Doors open at 7 p.m. and the music plays at 8. Tickets are available for purchase online at soundcheckstudios.com and include one raffle ticket. Soundcheck is located in Pembroke at 150 Corporate Park Drive. Next up is poet John Holgerson in a reading of his original work.
Good evening. My name is John Holgerson, and before I read the two poems I selected for tonight, could we just have a round of applause for Jennifer Harris and the other I'm hoping that next year we'll be here again for the third annual Plymouth Poetry Festival. I just wanted to say briefly how I picked these two poems. They're very short love poems. And I've been the member of a writers group now for almost a year. Our first anniversary will actually be next month. And last night we had our June meeting, and one of the members said to me that they had been looking over my first collection of poetry that was published slightly more than a decade ago, Broken Borders. And they noticed that there were a number of love poems in the collection. And the way that that was said to me, it either meant that they were surprised I'd been able to write so many love poems, or that I had written any at all. So there's just a little bit of background. Please keep in mind, both of these poems were written when the person standing before you right now was in his mid-20s. Just yesterday. Right? This first poem is a poem that I wrote when I was an exchange student at the University of London in England. And I was living in a youth hostel, which was actually the Catholic chaplaincy attached to the University of London. It was divided in half. Girls on one side, boys on the other side, or I should really say young men and young women. But we shared breakfasts, we shared dinners, we socialized quite a bit, probably a lot more than the priests in the chaplaincy were aware of. But there was one girl whose name was Sarah McKeon, and Sarah was very popular. So in an effort to try to gain an edge over the competition, I would stop on my way back from class at a vendor on the street who was selling flowers. And I would bring a bouquet of flowers on occasion and give them to her that night, or perhaps the next morning at breakfast. So I wrote this poem for her, but there's really two things, or one thing you need to know, and that is I never gave her the poem. As far as I know, she's never seen it. I put it inside a book of poems that she said she read on occasion, hoping that she would find it, but I have no idea if she's ever read it. So you are all my surrogate Sarahs for this evening, and I dedicate it to all the ladies here in the Uva Wine Bar. Bouquet of Flowers. This poem is my last bouquet of flowers for you. If you read this late at night, remember only certain jukebox records and soft moments of conversational touch. If you read this in daylight, remember words of luck on spring mornings and smiles of confession over breakfast. When I am no longer here beside you, read this poem. Remember your place in my life. That was the spring of 1970. I'm going to go back a little bit in time to the summer of 1969, when I was on my way back to college at the end of August of 1969. I had, I guess, to use an old school term, a summer romance with a young lady from June through August, knowing that I probably would never see her again. Once I went away to school and she went her way. I was going to the university, which was 1,000 miles from where I was living at the time.
What about Sarah?
Sarah stayed in London. She didn't follow me home.
I never read that poem.
So I knew I wasn't probably going to see this young lady whose name was Anne. And again, so I wrote this poem for her, and I did give it to her. And I know she did read it. She heard me read it to her. But more than that, I guess there's really not too much to say. And I only do the backstories because we have a member of the audience, and I won't point him out. I don't want to embarrass him, but he always wants to know the genesis of the poems he hears people read. So I tried to satisfy his curiosity this evening. This is called Lament. Before I left, I meant to trace the profile of your face with my finger, brush your curtain hair with a seashell comb, the way atavistic artists prepare portraits, the way the blind see to remember. Thank you.
The Plymouth Gristmill at Jenny Pond is one of Plymouth's most well-recognized landmarks, dating back to the mid-1600s. On December 4th, the town of Plymouth broke ground on a 2-year dredging project to fortify this natural habitat against climate change and into the 21st century. We caught up with David Gould, Plymouth's Director of Energy and Environment, to learn more about what this project will mean for the town.
This is a start of the dredging project. And also the replacement of the pedestrian footbridge. It improves ADA connectivity all the way from Holmes Park and Newfield Street into Jenny Park, and eventually all the way down to Brewster Gardens. And for the dredging component, it improves water quality at Jenny Pond, but it also sets a stage for Phase 2, which will happen next year, which are the dam repairs and the bypass channel or the nature-like fishway that we'll be constructing. So this is really the beginning of that larger project.
Plymouth's climate resiliency and sustainability planner Mike Cahill gave us a look at the history of the project and how it will help sustain the area's marine life population.
So starting back in 2019, we conducted a 6-year-long biotelemetry study that we call PIT tag. We took a bunch of little tags and we put them in 1,200 fish. We then had those fish downstream. We put 17 antennas along the stream, similar technology to like what you'd see in an Easy Pass, so with your vehicle. That way we could get individual data showing fish efficiency through certain sections of river. This project was led by Abigail Archer, who is with Woods Hole Sea grant. But basically from that data, we were able to assess that fish can make it up the fish ladder here at the Jenny Grist Mill, but the challenge is actually getting them in the ladder. Once they're in the ladder, there is a high efficiency, but only about 56% of the fish that were tagged were able to make it up that ladder and go upstream to spawn. So this project will include the creation of a nature-like fishway bypass, which will be about a 5-foot wide channel, which will circumvent the dam and run along the side of the mill here. It will improve fish passage going upstream and downstream for both diadromous fish and American eels at all stages of their life. These fish are important because they are critical forage species to commercially and recreationally significant marine species. So therefore, by improving the populations of forage, hopefully we'll be helping the commercial and recreational species out in the marine environment.
This dredging project and bypass channel fishway is planned to be completed by summer 2026. Plymouth Grist Mill at Jenny Pond is at 6 Spring Lane in Plymouth. Take an evening to walk through fields and forests to hear and maybe even see one of nature's most stealth nocturnal hunters in action. Put a feather in your cap by adding the Tidmarsh Wildlife Sanctuary Owl Prowl to your natural world experience on Saturday, January 11th. You'll meet the group in the parking lot of the sanctuary at 5 p.m. and together traverse the owl's secretive domain until 6:30. This event is entirely outdoors, so wear good sturdy shoes and dress for the weather. Tidmarsh is at 60 Beaver Dam Road in Plymouth. Visit massaudubon.org to register. Plymouth Public Schools need drivers. Here's more.
Hello, my name is Adam Blaisdell, the School Business Administrator for the Plymouth Public Schools. The Plymouth Public Schools are currently hiring both school bus drivers and 7D van drivers. 7D van drivers are needed to drive students to and from school, both within Plymouth and outside of Plymouth. 7D van drivers usually work in the morning from about 6:15 until 9:15, and in the afternoon from about 1:30 until 4:30. A 7D license and DOT physical is required. However, we can train you to qualify for a 7D license. Part-time school bus drivers are also needed to drive for our sports teams and field trips. Most of our athletic events occur after school and in the evening. A CDL and school bus certificate with passenger endorsement are needed to drive the yellow buses. Contact us for more information about licensing if you are interested. If you are interested in applying, please send me an email with your resume or call me at 508-830-4315. We are excited to have you join our driving staff in the Plymouth Public Schools.
The Music Creators Forum provides a platform for independent songwriters, composers, and arrangers of all genres of music to gather and share recordings of their original music and receive peer feedback. Develop and strengthen your work by testing it out on the understanding and knowledgeable ears of other music creators at the next forum on Saturday, January 11th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Plymouth Public Library. Be prepared to share a recorded piece of original work on your own laptop, cell phone, tape recorder, or other audio player. Depending on turnout, everyone will have up to 10 minutes for presentation. Contact facilitator Bob Harris to confirm your attendance at bearberrypathmusic@gmail.com. Here's some holiday news from the Plymouth Public Library.
Hello, my name is Maddie Mahoney, and I am a Youth Services Librarian at the Plymouth Public Library. The Plymouth Public Library engages and enriches the community through lifelong learning, collections, programming, and outreach. We are free and open to all with a commitment to diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. We pride ourselves on the programming we offer at the library. In the Youth Services Department, we provide programming for children and teens ages 0 to 18 and their caregivers. We host a variety of free and weekly, monthly programs, including story times, book clubs, and craft programs, as well as special events such as May the 4th, Stuffed Animal Sleepover, and our Summer Reading Kickoff. For those staying local for this upcoming holiday break, we are hosting a series of drop-in children's programs that will conclude with our annual New Year's Eve celebration. This event allows children and their families to experience the excitement of a New Year's Eve without having to stay up until midnight. Families with children ages 3 and up are invited to join us on Tuesday, December 31st at 11:30 a.m. for crafts, games, music, and dancing. At noon, we will do a countdown to the new year with confetti poppers. No registration is required. We hope to see you soon at our main branch located at 132 South Street or our Manamet branch located on 12 Strand Ave. You can learn more about our services at plymouthpubliclibrary.org.
A new club for bird lovers is taking flight at the Duxbury Senior Center. Beginning on January 7th, Birds of a Feather Birding Club will meet for a variety of avian-related activities, including guided birdwatching outings, educational workshops, and community projects. Focus will center on local species identification, understanding bird behavior, and how birding club members can contribute to conservation efforts. This is a great chance to meet and bond with fellow unwinged beings who share your interest in learning about the feathered friends who enrich our ecosystem. Flock to the Senior Center at 10 a.m. for the first meeting, led by snowy owl and raptor specialist Norman Smith. Next up is Tiff Phillips with more of what's happening in our community.
Gather the grandkids and your favorite table snacks for intergenerational trivia night at the Pembroke Council on Aging. On Monday, January 6th, come to the Senior Center for a fun and friendly trivia competition starting at 5:30 p.m. Sign up for your team of 2 to 6 people of any age who are ready to test their knowledge at a trivia party that crosses generations. Does that mean there'll be questions about both the Beatles and Billie Eilish? Perhaps. Sign-up cost is $12 per team, and teams need to be signed up in advance. You can do this by visiting the website at pembrokema.gov/recreation. Kids can earn their stripes as holiday candy detectives at the Kingston Public Library on Saturday, December 28th. From 10 o'clock a.m. to 4:30 p.m., stop by the children's room for a candy cane hunt that will lead your kids to all corners of the library. Young detectives will have to rely on their best sleuthing skills to figure out a series of clues that one by one will reveal a path to stash of delicious candy canes. The candy cane hunt is best suited for kids aged 3 to 12. No registration is required. You can just show up. The Duxbury Council on Aging is hosting Teas, Treats, and Trivia, a morning gathering of knowledge and noshing on Friday, January 10th. At 10 a.m., treats, teas, and trivia will be served hot for you and your teammates. Test your knowledge on a wide range of subjects and feed your brain along the way with delicious cups of tea and tasty breakfast bites. Whether you fancy yourself a trivia titan or just looking for something fun to brew, this is a party for you. Register with a group of friends or come meet new ones. You can sign up through the Senior Center's website at duxburyseniorcenter.org. The LGBTQIA+ community is vibrant and beautifully diverse, but unfortunately, it's also united by a shared experience: discrimination. The ability to physically defend and protect oneself as a queer person is imperative because this community is at a statistically much higher risk of facing unprovoked violence in their everyday lives. On Tuesday, January 7th, from 6:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m., Plymouth Pride invites you to a one-time only LGBTQIA+ beginner self-defense class at the Plymouth Public Library. There, instructor Stevie Downey will teach you basic defense skills so you can protect yourself in an emergency situation. This free 18+ event is running as part of Plymouth Pride's ongoing First Tuesday events that are held every month as a way for the LGBTQ+ community to come together. For more information on this and other events, visit Plymouth Pride Facebook page. Buddha once said, "Everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make peace with that and all will be well." Death is something that we as humans don't like to think about, but preparing for our end is something that we all must inevitably face. We invited end-of-life coach Aimee Yawnick to the Open Here set to hear how she is helping people prepare for their final chapter by providing comfort that has them leaving in love. I'm with end-of-life coach Aimee Yawnick. Welcome. So great to have you on Open Here.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you get into this profession?
Unexpectedly, honestly. My background is in fitness and nutrition, and I'm a trained life coach. I kind of put all those things together. I created a side hustle by cooking for busy families, giving them just a little bit of ease and trying to bring healthy meals to their families. And when COVID hit, everybody went home and started cooking for themselves. So my business just kind of ended. It was about a year that I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in this next stage, and my husband recommended that I just go volunteer because I was feeling purposeless. And I figured, okay, I'll go to an animal shelter or something. But then when I started researching, I found an opportunity to become a hospice volunteer. And for some reason, that just spoke to me. It was like this voice inside, and I'm old enough to understand that I should listen to that voice inside. And so I became a hospice volunteer, and It was extremely gratifying work. I felt privileged to sit next to people at the end of their lives and to be of service in that way. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was just going with the flow. And a few months later, my husband and I went on vacation. We were at the airport, and I was looking for a novel, and I came across a novel where the main character was a death doula. And it was like this shock wave went through my body, and I'm like, what is a death doula? So I grabbed the book and I started reading it. And then on vacation, I researched, what is a death doula and how do I become one? That was in December of 21. And in January of 22, I started my year-long certification to become an end-of-life doula, an end-of-life coach, and then to go on to become an end-of-life educator.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know you could go to school or take accreditation for something like that. That's incredible.
Yeah, I got certifications in those 3 areas.
Wow. So death is something that many people are afraid of. How do you kind of demystify the end of life process?
Really through education and talking about it. I have some amazing tools that I've learned on my way, films and articles, and just sharing experiences. But talking about it, we don't talk about death and dying. So when we're faced with it and we're looking at our loved ones who are at the end of life, it can be really scary. So just explaining to people what they can expect to see while they're witnessing their loved one at the end of life, what they can hear, what do these sounds mean? What does this smell mean? Is it okay to touch my loved one? Is it okay to get in bed with them? And just letting people, giving them permission to do what feels right from the heart. So just putting it out, I think of it like these hard conversations as like the gremlins, right? When you shine a light on them, they lose their power. Right. So when you shine a light on these hard conversations, a lot of the fear and anxiety is reduced.
Right. So what kind of services do you offer?
So what I offer is twofold. So as I told you, I was a trained life coach. So as a coach, I'm always looking for ways to be proactive. Instead of having to deal with something when you're in crisis mode and be reactive, if we can take a few steps back and look at what is to come, and we all know that death is coming. If we look at it ahead of time and have conversations and plan for end of life and talk to our family about what's important to us and how we want to be cared for, if we do that ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier on our families, and it makes it a lot easier on us, because then we get what we want. Our wishes are honored. So as an end of life coach, I have a workshop. And I help people to go through a very comprehensive program to answer reflective questions about what's most important to them, what matters most to them in their lives, in a series of different areas, like their spiritual life and their relationships, their physical care and their physical environment. The really practical stuff, like getting your affairs in order. That I bring somebody else in there because I don't take care of the legal part of it. And then legacy. How do you want to be remembered in the hearts and minds of your loved ones? So this coaching program, we go very deep into all these areas so that people have a full plan. I call it a comprehensive end-of-life care plan. They have a full plan, and their families can understand what's most important to them.
So what advice do you have for someone who's about to embark on their end-of-life journey?
So that's an interesting question, because you do have people who are very aware that they're at the end of their life. They have a diagnosis, or they're very old and they're failing. For those people, I think my answer is the same, but for those people, it's talk to your loved ones. Have conversations, say things that you want to say, clean things up if there are relationships that you want to clean up. Find ways to have peace and gratitude and love for the life that you've lived, and find ways to reduce the anxiety and fear. And a shameless plug for end-of-life doulas, that's what we can help you to do, is to have these conversations so that you can, and the name of my business, Leaving in Love, so you can leave in love and not in fear and anxiety. Now, for the rest of us who don't know, with a diagnosis or we're really old, we don't know when our end of life is going to be. Anything can happen to anybody at any time. So we're all just here living our lives thinking that, okay, that's one day out in the future. But another way to be proactive is to do this work now, regardless of your health status. If you have a driver's license and you have a credit card, you should be talking about your end-of-life wishes. You should be having conversations about what's important to you in your life. And hopefully it's years, decades down the road, but when you get really clear about what's important to you, you can start living in alignment with those values, and life gets really awesome because you're living honoring what matters most to you. And then fast forward to that time when you're on your deathbed, you can leave in love. You can leave surrounded by gratitude and appreciation for the life that you lived.
So what about for the rest of us? Do you have any advice, especially the holidays coming up? How do we grieve in a way that makes sense to us?
Grieving is very personal. Grieving is very intimate. I would say that there is no right or wrong way to grieve, that you should trust your instincts, that you should ask for help, that you should not do it alone. The holidays can be really hard, and I think it's really important to talk about your loved one, include them in, whatever holiday traditions feel right for you. You have permission to not do any of it. If you're just not feeling like you can manage, we just had Thanksgiving. If you don't feel like you can manage these big meals and having everybody over, or even being in an environment where you're supposed to be feeling joyful, don't do it. Give yourself permission to take a break and rest. But if you are prepared to have these celebrations and to do the traditions, bring your person along with you. Bring a picture of your loved one. Even put a picture at the table. And, when you go around talking about what you're grateful for this year, talk about that person. What are the memories? Show pictures, watch videos, bring them into the celebration so that their memories live on.
Love that. How should we be preparing for the end, even though we aren't dying per se? Like, I know we're constantly dying, but how do we prepare for those of us who might not know what our expiration date is?
Conversations. Talking about just bringing death into your conversation. We're all heading in that direction. I mean, at the bare minimum, you hear everybody say to get your affairs in order. Bare minimum, you want to protect what you've worked your whole life for. Right? So have the will, have the estate plan, have the advance directives. It's really important to identify a healthcare agent who you trust will follow through with your end-of-life wishes. And it's not just things like whether you want to be intubated or have CPR performed on you or a feeding tube. Like, those are really important things to talk about, depending on the situation that you're in. But also, how do you want to be cared for? Like the gentle, soft touches. I like really soft, cozy things. So I want pajamas that are soft and cozy. I want a blanket that's soft and cozy. I don't like my feet to be too cold or too hot. So, loved one, check in on me. Like, touch my feet. I don't like lotions that are really, really sweet and flowery, but I love like a citrusy grapefruit, like little details that the hospice volunteer won't know about, the nurse won't know about, but these people that you're sharing your end-of-life wishes, they get it, and they can give you, and they want to give you your end-of-life wishes. They want to follow through with and honor them.
Because it's what we deserve, for sure.
Yeah. So those kinds of things are how you can prepare. And I will say that this workshop that I offer helps you prepare in a very comprehensive way. And we do dig into things like, where do you want to be at the end of your life? Do you want to be at home, like no matter what? Do you want to be surrounded by family, or is it more important for that one special person to be with you? Do you want to be, facing a window where you can see what's going on outside? Do you want the windows open? It's just thinking about things like that. And something magical happens when you start to talk about this stuff. You reduce the fear and the anxiety, and you start to invite death into the conversation. And I don't want to say we befriend death, because that's a hard pill to swallow, but we at least see that it doesn't have to be as scary as we make it out to be.
Now, are you personally afraid of death?
I'm not. So my first experience of death, I was 7 years old when my grandfather died. And, I think back then, it was get the kids out of the room, just move the kids away. And I remember being told to leave the room, like we were brought somewhere else. I didn't question it, but I didn't fear it either. I didn't think I was being kept from something that was scary. It just felt like life, our life cycle included death. My dad died when I was 25 years old. That was awful. But it felt like, okay, this is what's happening. Like, this is part of life. Now, when I get to that place, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't know. I think maybe we all feel a little bit of fear of the unknown. We don't know what's coming next. But it doesn't scare me. I don't fear death.
How does this profession fulfill you personally? Is this your calling?
Oh my God, yeah. I don't think you can do this work without it being a calling.
Right.
It gives me purpose. It is a privilege to sit next to somebody at the end of their life. Yeah, it's fulfilling in a really hard to explain way, where we all need to be seen and heard, and to witness somebody during this final challenge of life while they're laboring. They're separating their body from their spirit or their soul or whatever it is that you believe. To be witnessed during that time is a privilege and an honor. And that's just how it feels to me. It feels like a calling, and the sitting bedside feels that way. And then doing the work, the coaching work, makes me feel like I'm helping somebody to get prepared for that end of life moment. And so that they're not walking in, looking around this dark and scary room, wondering what's ahead of me. They've at least had some conversations about what it might be like and how they want to show up.
Wow. Well, I'm happy you're showing up. Thank you so much for all your incredible work, and thank you for being here today.
Important information. Thank you, Tiff. And that, my friends, wraps this episode of What's Good and Good to Know in our area. We thank our patrons, Tiny & Sons, Quintal Brothers, and Squinty's Pizza, for supporting our mission of community in action through media. And we thank you for watching.
Okay. Our show will be on hiatus for the next 2 weeks. We wish you all who celebrate Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2025.
For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching.